Hello, I guess we're going to try and show some of the steps for processing pictures today. So, to start off with, I'll look for some files. Here we go. So, I captured these 5 files and we're going to process them. So, the first step is we need to debayer them. These were captured with a CCD, an ATIC 460 monochrome, and my default setting is green, red, blue, green. So you have to check out what your debayer is, your mosaic, because if you don't know that, by default it's the RGGB, which is what most DSLRs are, but my ATIC captures in RGBG. I think I can set it, I'm just too lazy to change it. So we're going to go add those files. Open them up, and just to make sure we're in the same folder, and execute. You can set the output file to be something different, but I just stick with the default XISF, which looks like this, XISF. Now you notice that my image is going from an 11 megabyte file to 70 megabytes. So usually after I'm done processing, I just blow them all away because they take up quite a bit of disk space. You can always recreate this again. Alright, so the debayering is done. Since I'm not applying any flats or darks, I'm simply going to just register them. That is done with the star alignment. So here's star alignment. So we're going to go find those files, and we pick the XISF files because they're debayered. And I'm going to set a reference. So pick a file, and I'll take the middle one because I like the middle file. Because if the image does move around, then you're picking up the image that was in the center. So I'm going to say go ahead, and that is going to do some alignment. What this is doing is it's creating files that are registered, so all the stars are mapped to know the location of each other. So in my folder here, you can see I now have the original FITS files, the debayered files, and now we have these registered files showing up. So we have debayered _R for registered. Alright. Now that they're registered, we can actually go ahead and align those. So let's do an image integration. We will add, let's go by modified date here. So all the registered files, here we are. There's 5 of them. All right. So I usually don't mess with the image integration settings, combination, average, that's fine. But down here in pixel rejection, I do want to reject some pixels. I'm going to do sigma clipping. Now, if you're really picky, you can set your sigma low and high to the same, like 3. But I tend to think if you're using a DSLR and it's noisy, you want to get rid of, allow to take away some of those bad pixels. If you're really confident your DSLR was cooled really well and you don't think you're going to have any dead pixels, then tighten that up on the rejection. So we're going to run that. What this does is it creates a single output, single image. So while it's doing that, we'll take a look. See, there's nothing happening here yet. Almost ready. As you can see here, it's comparing all the 5 files, looking for the variances. And here we go. So this is the pixels on the high side that were rejected, which I set with the sigma high. Using the screen transfer function, we can do what's called an auto stretch. And if we do, you see, I did an auto stretch, and if I zoom in, you can see all the pixels here, reds, blues, greens that were rejected. That's good to know. I don't care about this. I'm going to throw that file away. We're going to do the same thing with the low rejections. I'm going to zoom in. Nothing there. That's awesome. Throw that file away. So here's the actual integrated image. So I'm going to put this linking, which links all the red, green, blue together, perform an auto stretch. Notice how the image is quite red, and that's okay. Let's get rid of that. If we unlink it and do a stretch, it actually modifies the colors to what it thinks is best. So here's where we can look around and find a spot of the sky that would be more neutral. So what we want to neutralize to. There's a lot of dust around here, so around the stars themselves. Let's pick an area way in the corner. So way up in the top corners looks good to me. Yeah, right about here. So you can use Alt-N, or we can pick this button here, and we're going to pick this spot. Let me just zoom in to show you what that looks like. So in here you can see I've selected just the background sky. So what we're going to do now is go to background neutralization, and if we move around here, at the bottom of the screen you'll see red, green, blue, and you'll see the numbers are changing. It doesn't seem to be a very high number, so I think we'll go with the defaults. I'm going to pick region of interest, and I'm going to use preview 1. So it's going to select background neutralization from this preview. So it can either hit the button here to apply it. I like to drag it on. It's a new instance, and I drag it over top. There. So notice the picture looks, well, funny, but that's okay. See, again, we can do an auto stretch. This image, by the way, is in what's called linear state. We haven't done any stretching to it. All we're doing is just visually stretching it with the screen transfer function. So now that we've neutralized the background, I can actually link the red, green, blue and do an auto stretch. Notice how it turned a touch more red. So the next step is to look at the colors and say, oh, do we have the colors right? So we'll go to color calibration. And again, we'll find the brightest stars. I think there's quite a few bright ones up here. So let's go in that area, sure. And we'll grab all these white stars. So now in the color calibration, we'll take region of interest, and we'll pick preview number 2, which is this new region I selected with the hot white stars. And then down here for background reference, we're going to take the same one we did before, which is preview number 1. That's the same one we used to do the background neutralization, and this is going to be the background reference. So again, we apply that. It's going to go through it. Oh, it did change it. Excellent. So we're going to do an auto stretch on the view again. Now that looks a lot better. A little less reds, more blues. Now we're getting back to the real colors. I'll just close these two down. So this, as I said, the auto stretch is on, but if we turn the auto stretch off by turning off the resetting at the screen transfer, this is what the image actually looks like at this point. It's still in that linear state. So we're going to take away the previews. So we'll temporarily put the auto stretch back on. Now, next step is to start processing and fixing up some of the noise. So let's duplicate this image. You can see we have a duplicate. It's a clone. On the clone, we'll reset it so it's dark, or back to the linear state. And let's go to Histogram Transformation. So this is a very useful tool. So if I click on the integrated file, you'll notice the screen transfer shows my stretch. So if I take this application and drag it onto the bar at the bottom here, see this white space at the bottom, and release it, it's put that stretch onto the histogram transformation. Now I can take that stretch and apply it to the clone. the two pictures look the same. But the reality is this one is in a nonlinear state, and the original is actually still in the linear state. So I'm going to take this instance and I'm going to drag it to the desktop just so we save a copy of this process. I'm going to use it quite a bit. So now let's take the original image and put a mask. We'll take the linear stretched image and make it the mask, and that's the clone, and let's invert it. Okay. So notice how the red shows up. That's showing that the mask is on. So our next step is Hdr Wavelet Transform. This is a fantastic tool. It does a marvelous job of noise reduction. So let's zoom in and take a look, and you see a lot of noise here. So by the way, I can turn the mask off by pressing Control K. See, it turned it off, and it's actually just not displaying it. The mask is still there. So in this Hdr wavelet form, we're going to do some noise reduction, and we'll start with threshold 4, and we'll do that 3 times. And we'll do the next layer, scale number 2, threshold 2 times. On the third layer, threshold 1, 2 times. And on the fourth one, we're getting smaller and smaller details here. Noise reduction 0.5 with 1 iteration. We'll just save this for later. So let's apply it. It'll take a second to go through. It has to go through all the layers. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's doing the processing. There we go. So I use the back button here to show the before. Look at all the noise. And do after. A lot of noise reduced. That's fantastic. So let's close this tool down. And let's go to Multiscale Medium Transform. And we're going to put in the same numbers. This one doesn't have iterations, but we'll put in the thresholds. So 4, 2, 1, and 0.5. And we'll apply that. This one should take probably just as long as the last one. Very good. So let's do it before. Yeah, let's zoom in here. A lot of greens and an after. So a lot less, but still some noise in this. So why don't we go to, where is it? SCNR. SCNR is a fantastic tool for removing too much greens. Color to remove green. We'll apply it. A lot of green removed. So let's zoom out, look at the whole picture now. Much cleaner. When you zoom in, a lot smoother. So much noise reduced. Now remember, the mask is still on, so press Control K, and you can see the mask is there. So we're done with the mask for now. So I'm going to destroy this clone, and when I destroy it, it removes the mask. Okay, so remember, we're still working in a linear state. So if I reset the screen transfer, it's still a pretty dark image. So let's move it into a non-linear state and stretch it. So let's reset this. This button here is for the real-time preview. So now we can see what's going on. And for the view, let's select the integration, which is the original file. So here, look, we can see there's a histogram way slammed up against the left side. So let's pull some stretching. Look at that. As we stretch it, more details, too much stretching. All right, this looks good. We'll apply it. Most of my preview went white. Let's reset that. This is obviously too bright, but look, there's a lot of gap here. So we're going to start pulling the black point forward. And I'm going to stop probably somewhere around here, because you notice down here I'm starting to drop some pixels. It's almost none, but 0, 0, 11. I mean, I could pull it more, but I'll keep as much detail as possible. Also, I like this histogram to be on about the third mark. So let's stretch it up, and now you can see the histogram is right over top this 1/3 mark. See, the preview shows it to be about right. So we'll apply. Now the image is in a nice state. Let's reset that. All right, close it down. So this is now in a non-linear state. So the next step, let's do a star mask, and let's make some of the stars a bit smaller. So we can modify some of these parameters, but I'm just going to go with the default for now. And the idea is the star mask is going to allow me to select just the stars, and what I do is shrink the stars just ever so slightly. Not the big stars, just the little stars. So close that down. This is the mask. So let's apply the mask. Mask, select mask, star mask. Oh, and it's not inverted. Okay. If we had inverted it, so I could press Control-Shift-I to invert, and you can see that the stars are masked out, but that's not what I want. I want everything else to be masked out, and just the stars to be revealed. Because the process I'm going to run is Morphological Transformation. So let's just minimize this. So morphological, what we want to do is this button right here. This button is to reduce circular structures. Stars are circular structures. So we take this and we apply it. Now, I want to see what happened there. So I'm going to take the mask off with Control-K. Let's undo. See, the stars are a bit brighter. Redo it. Now they're a little dimmer. You could keep going. I'm just going to apply it once. I think that's good enough for now. Take the mask away. The mask, of course, is removed off of the image. So the next step, maybe you want to bring some structure out. So maybe a range selection might be a useful tool. Let's bring up the preview. Notice how it's kind of all white. So let's put some fuzziness in, maybe 15, and smoothness of 5. Some of the stars are showing up. Let's take the lower limit, start pulling it back. Aha, see that? So I want to find enough of the structure that I want to pull detail out of. Somewhere around here might be okay. So let's apply that. And there we go. Now we have a range mask. So close the tool. Oh, one more thing we could do, interesting enough, is we could take the atrous process. Let's reset it, and see these check marks? That's details. Let's get rid of the details for the first 4 layers. Now when I apply this, watch, it makes it more fuzzy. So actually what we're doing is blurring it. Let's do it once, twice, 3 times for a good charm. Notice how blurry it is? This is the same effect as a Gaussian blur in Photoshop. So let's close that. Now let's add that mask. Range mask. Okay. Let's press Control-K to see what we're looking at, and there it is. So this is where I want to add some detail. Let's minimize that. This is where it gets fun again. Let's open up atrous and reset it. So layer 1, let's put some bias. This is sharpening. So 2.05. You don't need a lot. Very, very little. 0.05. 0.02. Let's apply that. That's awesome. So let's turn off. So hit the back button. Very smooth. Go forward. More detail. Just for kicks, let's run it again. Lots and lots of detail there. Look at that. So Control K, put the mask back on. Oh, I think I'd remembered one step I'd like to show you as well. So we're done with this. Let's just turn that off. Let's invert this mask. So now the area that's protected is the nebulosity, and I want to target all this black region out here, the sky. And the reason I want to target is I'm going to run a little bit more noise reduction with ACDNR. So let's zoom in and look at some of this sky. Alright, standard deviation. You could go with the default, but I'm going to put it right up to 2, 1, amount 1. Let's go straight to maximum and apply it. And we're just doing it with our nebulosity area. Now let's zoom in. Wow. Okay, Control K to turn the mask off. Let's show you the before. See that? Blue dots, green dots. After, nothing. So the sky is completely neutralized. And look how sharp this image is. There's no noise in it at all. Let's close that down. Now if we really wanted, the range mask is still on. Press Control K. Control Shift I to invert it. We could try some Hdr Multiscale. This may or may not work. And you can play around with the layers. Sometimes as low as 2, sometimes if you're doing the Orion Nebula as high as 12. Let's start with 2, and we'll keep our eye on the stars to make sure there's no de-ringing. We may have to run de-ringing. Oh, let's put lightness on just to see what happens. So this is just applying the nebulosity area. Let's press Control K. I think it's washed it out too much, so let's undo that. Let's take lightness off. Try it again. Still washing it out. Let's reverse that. Alright, let's go up to 3 and try 3 layers. So each time I add a layer, it means there's more dynamic layers it's trying to abstract and create that HDR effect from. So you know what? I don't think we need an HDR in this one, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to leave that alone. But at least you know how to do it. So let's take the mask off. Now we're looking at the full picture again. So if we go into Histogram Transformation, make sure integration is selected. We could pull this forward just a bit more, just to darken it. There we go. Alright, reset that. It's looking pretty good. Nice blue nebulosity, lots of black space behind it. So, just like in Photoshop, there's a curves. This is curves transformation. Let's put a preview on. So right now I'm selected for RGB. So let's lower it. Now that sky is really dark. And put a standard curve, brighten up the high areas. Now let's add some luminosity. L. See, I press number L. Just general curve. Whole thing brightens up. Let's saturate it. This S. I get a purple line. Let's just pull the saturation up.